Hello and welcome to another SoSouth discussion. Today we are going to discuss Kerala left's move to a different type of ideology. Kerala's left is not really known for being amenable to privatization. Yet in the past few months, the left-run Kerala state government has given its nod to private players in the sunrise economy, as it was called by Finance Minister. Now there have also been talks of higher education opportunities in the state being opened to private capital. The latest to add to this is the state government gearing up for something called Mukhamukam. It's a bid to foster direct engagement with citizens. In this Mukhamukam, individuals from various sectors can voice their concerns to Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan. After Keraliyam and now Kerala Sadas invoked private sponsorships, the government is once again courting controversy by raising sponsorship through private players. And this is quite an about turn from their usual militant opposition to privatization from before. And today we have journalist Anand Kochukudy with us to discuss whether the left is finally seeing error of its ways. Welcome to SoSouth Discusses, Mr. Anand Kochukudy. So my first question to you on this, in this regard, would be whether this is the Kerala's left government seeing a different ideology altogether, or actually being amenable or open towards seeing a different side to it, where while the whole of the rest of the India had been open to privatization. Why do you think this particular change in their ideology has been?
See, there are so many things to recollect. If we start with this change of ideology of the left when it comes to private capital, privatization as in education, and especially in higher education, because there's a lot of history attached to it. So in the 90s, when the Indian economy opened up, we had private universities being set up in practically every state. I think at last count there are 465 private universities all across India, and Kerala, with its remarkable performance in education over the years, still doesn't have a single private university in the whole state of Kerala. So there's a reason for that. The reason is that the left has been totally against any investment in higher education by the private sector. By definition, they say that education is a service, and anybody investing in private universities, they'll have profit motive, and it will be against the concept of education itself. But of late, there has been a flight of students from Kerala to foreign countries, and this was this was going on for a few years, but this has exacerbated in the past few years. And in the post-COVID era, it has increased even to another level where people just want to escape from Kerala. They're not just going there to study, they're not coming back. They're taking permanent residency, they are settling down there. So there's a brain drain, and people have finally begun asking the rulers, the government, what they're doing about it. And the government doesn't have any answer to that. And the government belatedly, I'd say, has been amenable to this change because of the ground reality. Earlier, people would go to the Gulf countries, they would go there and work, and they would come back with their savings. There would be remittances. People would be dependent. The parents of the people who were working there, the remittances would be coming, so it wasn't so much of a problem. It was actually helping the Kerala economy boom. But in this case, when the students leave for abroad, they are not coming back, and so it becomes a double whammy in that sense. So that is one aspect of it. There's another aspect, that is the left, which is the traditional left, which was dogmatic. That generation of leaders have been passed over. So when Pinarayi Vijayan became the leader, taking over from V.S. Achuthanandan of the Kerala CPM, that signified many things. V.S. Achuthanandan represented the old traditional dogmatic left, which wasn't pragmatic in many of its approaches. and which didn't compromise with its ideals. It was also a principled opposition. There was a principled side to it, which the current left rulers in Kerala lack. They are too pragmatic in the sense they don't even want to explain why they made a change, or why they are opening up the private sector, why they are welcoming of the private capital. There's no explanation. When you make a change from the past, when you make a U-turn from the past, when you take a U-turn, then you have to explain to the people, especially to their cadres, to their workers, why they are doing such a thing. There's no explanation forthcoming on why they're doing that. So when Pinarayi Vijayan took over from V.S. Achyutanandan, or when the mantle was passed on to Pinarayi Vijayan, it signified a very important thing, that the old traditional left, which was represented earlier by E.M.S. Namboodiripad and later by V.S. Achyutanandan, it was being taken over by the new left, which didn't have the baggage of the dogma, or the ideology, which was the burden of the traditional left. And Pinarayi Vijayan and his followers, they represent the former left leader, somebody who was ousted from the left party in the 1980s when he took on E.M.S. Namboodiripad. In 1985, there was a leader called M.V. Raghavan, who was a very popular leader from Kannur, who was also the mentor of Pinarayi Vijayan and his colleagues or his supporters. So when M.V. Raghavan took on E.M.S. Namboodiripad in 1985, the left had ruled Kerala only thrice, and that too for 2.5 years each, or about 7 years in total, 1957 to 59, and 1967 to 69, and 1980 to October 1981. So it was about 7 years. So when from 1957 to 1985, so that was the Congress which was ruling mostly, and also in the Congress had an alliance with the CPI in the 1970s. So the CPM was practically left behind in that sense. So in 1985, M.V. Raghavan he propounded a new theory where he wanted the left to compromise with some of its principles and some of its stated goals on how to come to power in Kerala. He wanted to get the Muslim League, the Kerala Congress, which were community-backed political parties. Muslim League, obviously, by the Muslims and the clergy of the Muslim clergy, and the Kerala Congress, which was backed by the church. So he wanted an alliance with these parties. He wanted to water down some of the ideological elements of the CPM, and that way he thought the left could come back to power. But simultaneously, there was another development in the country and the state at that time. That was the Shah Banu judgment, which was overturned by Rajiv Gandhi. And EMS saw an opportunity there, and he went for the other route, that is to the consolidation of the Hindu community in Kerala in the 1987 election, which paid off. But just, the difference in the vote percentage was less than 1%. So the left won 1987, defeating the Congress-led alliance by less than 1% vote, but it was good enough. I mean, EMS was proved right. M.V. Raghavan went out of the party. He was thrown out of the party, and his supporters, M.V. Raghavan supporters, most of them remained with the CPM, including Pinarayi Vijayan. But they were looking for an opportunity to get their ideology, or which was distinct from the traditional left, to get that their line to succeed in the party. And till VS was there, till VS Achyutanandan held fort, he managed to stave off Pinarayi Vijayan and his supporters. But the moment VS became too old and he was passed over, then Pinarayi Vijayan and his supporters, they could they could manage to get anything done, and they began to change, they water down the ideological constructs one by one, and it was a steady process. So you can see a lot of changes from the 90s to now, or the 2000s, when V.S. Achyutanandan was the chief minister, 2006 to 11, when the left had a completely different approach to many things, not just education, not just to private capital, but to many other things. So that change has been most pronounced when Pinarayi Vijayan took over as chief minister in 2016, and that has been continuing. And the welcoming of private universities is one part. The bigger and the more explosive bit of that is the welcoming of foreign universities to set shop in Kerala.
But Anand, the idea here is, isn't it a welcome move considering Kerala has, because of these left's militant opposition to opening any sector to privatization, now that it has opened up, now that it is moving towards the right direction, when you compare Kerala to the other to the larger economy, to the larger Indian economic space, isn't this supposed to be the right way? But what do you have to say about how do you think now is when the decision has been made, or now, because left has already been in this is the second consecutive term, a historic second consecutive term, so shouldn't the why do you think the timing is now? And one, why is the timing now? And two, don't you think it is the right move in the right direction?
Of course, it's the right move, but it's 20 years too late. That's what I would say. That if the private sector had been opened up, A.K. Antony, when he became chief minister in 2001, he tried to do that, but the left protested vehemently. Even though Pinarayi Vijayan, deep down, he knew that it was the right policy. Even he went with the party line, and he was the party secretary at that time. From 1998, Pinarayi Vijayan was the state secretary of CPM, which is a very important position, as big as being chief minister. When the left rules, it's party secretary. Till Pinarayi Vijayan became chief minister, the party secretary held all the cards. The chief minister had to, the party secretary could dictate party policy to the chief minister. So when A.K. Antony tried to open up the education sector to private players, he opened up the professional education. He allowed private players to set up self-financing colleges. The condition was that 50% of the seats would be in the would be allocated to the government sector. So his rationale was that if there are two private colleges, that will be tantamount to one government college. The government did not have the money, the capital to start too many professional colleges, while that was in such huge demand in the state. Malayali students were going to Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh at that time for professional courses, to study engineering and medical courses, even nursing courses. And A.K. Antony thought it best that opening up the private sector, the professional sector, to private players would stop that. But what did the left do? They just opposed it tooth and nail. There were so many public protests. The left youth organizations, the student organizations, the DYFI, Democratic Youth Federation of India, which is the youth organization of the CPM, and the SFI, Students Federation of India. So they kept on fighting the government, and there were pitched battles on the streets. People were out on the streets, the left cadres were on the streets. They completely opposed it. There were suicides, there were protests, and street protests which went went out of hand. There was a lot of violence. I still remember, because it was also, I was also a very young person at that time, so I remember things very clearly, very vividly. And all of that happened, and now the same person that is Pinarayi Vijayan, who was the state secretary of the CPM at that time, who held such an important position, as important as being chief minister. He is now the chief minister, and the sector has been opened up. As I said earlier, there's a flight of students abroad. Kerala students are going abroad, so he might have felt further pressure to open up the sector. But when the left has left has bitten the bullet and opened up the private sector to private players, the education sector to private players, there's no explanation, there's no rationale, there's no explanation why this has been done and why they opposed it in the past, and what prevented them from supporting, or from either supporting or at least not opposing it earlier. So there's no explanation forthcoming on that, which is very strange. I would say that they should probably be apologizing to the Kerala society that they took a lot of time. I mean, they're 20 years too late. This is a party which opposed computerization, computers. When computers, when they heard about computers, they brought out pamphlets, they brought out booklets against computers. Then they accepted. Now they are very accepting of technology. Now finally they have accepted that private players are needed in the education sector. The government can't do that. The government can't open colleges, and the government can't do it alone. So I would just say that they're too late, and it's the right policy. I welcome it. I think the Kerala people welcome it. But there should be some explanation forthcoming from the government on why they opposed this same thing in the past, and there should be a discussion, debate, whether this has led to Kerala falling behind in education, which was its forte in the past.
So, sir, you have been saying that this is now 20 years too late a move. But we all know better late than never. There are all these cliches. But the question here to ask, while there is also the need for the government and the left in general to answer why they opposed it till now, the bigger question right now is why now? What is the need for, or how did the government, especially a left governed government, come to this decision right now, or this particular moment in time, to finally open up at least education to privatization? Why do you think the timing of it is now than, let's say, 5 years ago or 5 years from now?
I'd say that first of all, Pinarayi Vijayan's convictions, that Pinarayi Vijayan's private or his personal conviction also played a part, because I think Pinarayi Vijayan was always welcoming of private universities deep down, but he couldn't voice that, or he couldn't do anything on that, because V.S. Achyutanandan and a very strong section of the party was opposed to it. So Pinarayi Vijayan, when the party was opposing private capital, private investment in education, in professional colleges, he took his daughter Veena to Amrita Vishwavidyapeeth in Coimbatore, adjoining Kerala, and he got her admitted there with the reference of Leela Krishnan Nair. This is all recounted in a book which hasn't been challenged by the CPM as of date, by Berlin Kunjanandan Nair, a famous journalist and who was also a left fellow traveler, passed away just a couple of years ago at the age of 99. So Pinarayi Vijayan took his daughter, got her admitted there. She undertook a course there. She completed her engineering. Now she's an entrepreneur. Also in the news for other, for certain controversial decisions in the, that's another story. But yeah, so he was spearheading this violent agitation against the Kerala government on private capital, private investment in education. And at the same time, he took his daughter and got her admitted in a private university, private college in Coimbatore. So I would say that either he is, it's the duplicity, or he was always convinced about it himself, and he just went with the party policy. The important question that you're asking is why now? Why the sector has been opened up now? Why not in the, if you're wondering why it wasn't done in the first term, the CPM was trying to, I think in the first term, the CPM was trying to, the change can't happen all of a sudden. So they were trying to probably, uh, you know, to try and make a, make it was a gradual thing. They couldn't do it all at once. So Pinarayi Vijayan, although he's in total command of the party now, he has to make sure that he has the party, his supporters, his the older colleagues, the senior leaders in the party. He wanted to carry everybody along, and he wanted to make sure that there would be no opposition from any of them. So he managed to do that probably after his first term was nearing to an end, and he's the one who, as chief minister, he's the one who came up with this new Kerala document. That was, I think, it was in 2020. There was the there was the Ernakulam State Conference where it was first introduced, the new Kerala document, where in one of the pages, I think it was page 44, where it says that welcoming private players in higher education is the way to go. But there was no word on foreign universities, but this part was there, and this was reported in the newspapers that this is a policy change. And so it was debated probably in that Ernakulam State Conference of the CPM. State Conference, the CPM, they have these periodical, every 3 years they have a state conference where they take stock of the party and everything else. So it was then taken to the Kannur national, the CPM national conference, where they, which is called a party congress. The Kannur party congress debated it, and they, gave the go ahead. So he got the go ahead from the party, and then it was finally introduced in the second or the second year, third year of the second term. So that is the timing part of it.
So the why now you have answered to an extent about the why now you have answered to an extent why this has happened. Maybe Pinarayi Vijayan has taken all of his first term and most of his, at least half of his second term, to get everybody on board with this opening up at least higher education to private players. Now, another question: knowing that Kerala's fiscal health has been in news for the past few months, do you think, or would you be able to support this argument that the state's fiscal health also has something to do with the budget announcing at least higher education being opened up to private players, so that the private money comes in and infuses some life into a more or less dying sector, at least in Kerala?
I don't see a direct correlation there, because government opening up the private sector doesn't mean that the government will be spending less on some other, expenditure. But generally, the market will be booming when there will be private investment in various sectors. So that's a natural, everybody knows that whenever there's more investment, there's more money flowing into the system, the market will be booming. There'll be people will be the biggest thing, what, apart from all the things that I recounted earlier, I think the biggest push came from the fact that so many young people are leaving Kerala for education and for settling down in foreign countries, in countries like Canada, US, Australia, UK. So there are so many students going every year. So that became a huge factor for the government try and contain it. So these days you don't have enough students filling up colleges in Kerala. Even in prestigious colleges, you have vacant seats. Even in colleges where getting admission was such a huge thing, where getting admission was a prestigious thing, you have vacant seats in the past few years. So that actually probably was the biggest reason why the left had to do it. Of course, the bringing more private, or the more and more private capital, private investment in various sectors will be helpful to the government. And Kerala is a state where high polluting industries which have a lot of chemical affluence, there's no, because of the density of population and because of the topography of the state and 44 rivers across the state, Kerala will find it very difficult to accommodate such industries, heavy industries. So Kerala has been Kerala has been catering to the service sector more so than other sectors. So what Kerala needs to ensure is that there are enough jobs in the state. So how do we create jobs? So that is one headache for the government. How do you why are people leaving abroad? People are leaving abroad because there are no enough job opportunities. There are so many graduates, there are so many postgraduates who are not working in Kerala. It's not just confined to women, it's also confined to able-bodied men between the ages of 20 and 40. So there are so many people who are not working, and that is one big reason why they're going abroad. There are no jobs. So how do you create jobs? There are so many Malayali IT professionals working in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, in Chennai, and there's there is one argument that if there are more IT parks in the state, and if there are more companies coming to Kerala, and IT parks like Techno Park in Trivandrum, Info Park in Kochi, Cyber Park in Kozhikode, if there are such IT parks everywhere in Kerala, I mean every district of Kerala, there would be more jobs. But you can't just be limited to IT. IT is definitely very important. Tourism is another sector, and then you have to create as many jobs as possible in the service sector. So, but it can't be done without the private players getting more and more leverage, private players coming in, and ensuring that there is an atmosphere, there is a climate for the private players to invest. So that is one factor. And starting with the education sector, if the left feels that they can open up the higher education sector to big private players, and now even foreign universities, that will actually go a huge way in making sure that the necessary conditions for creating more jobs will happen. It will happen sooner than later. So I'd say that the budgetary thing is a different thing. The Kerala's fiscal health is very bad, but that may not be the sole reason, or that may not be the reason why this decision has been taken. That's an entirely different. There are so many things to speak about the budget and the fiscal health of Kerala, but that's a different topic.
Thank you so much for joining with us, Mr. Anand. There you have it from Mr. Anand, that faced with the acute brain drain, where students are now going abroad and not looking at jobs or even higher education within the state, and also the state looking at a prospect of a geriatric society. The left now wants to move out from its services and tourism sector and open up entire industries, entire sectors to outside players, private players, to invest in this changing atmosphere. And now that Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan has the opportunity, having control probably, as well as an outlook towards a better future, they have begun by opening up privatization to at least higher education sector. Have I got that right, Mr. Anand?
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining with us today. I would hope that to talk to you more about many other Kerala and related politics. Thank you for joining with me.
Thank you. And